There are days you wake up thinking the world is basically sane, and then you watch a pack of HOA wannabe cops tear through your front pasture like they're storming a compound. That morning started with the sound of tires crunching gravel, 6 SUVs crawling up my driveway, red and blue lights flashing for maximum intimidation, and the woman in charge, Karen Vanderbilt herself, standing tall in khakis so crisp they probably came with a certificate of authenticity. You ever meet someone who just radiates that I'm the boss now energy? That's Karen. She marched right up, slapped a red seizure sticker on my pickup for all the neighbors to see, and announced, "There are armed terrorists on our land." If you're wondering, no, she wasn't talking about me. Well, not exactly. See what Karen didn't realize as her crew went room by room hauling off my hunting rifles, every last trap, and even the thermal cameras I used to track wild hogs, was that everything she seized was the only line between our nice little slice of Pine Ridge and what was really out there in those woods. 27 dark shapes, bigger than anything I'd seen in 15 years of wildlife management, moving closer on the infrared feed. Wild boar, except bigger, meaner, and smarter, a natural disaster with tusks. But try explaining that to a woman with a clipboard and an agenda. We don't need self-appointed vigilantes endangering our community, Karen snapped, barely glancing at the footage I showed her. The part that really stung was how she knew exactly where to look for my gear. Hidden trail cameras, backup supplies, things I never told a soul about. When I pressed her, she flashed that politician smile, flat, practiced all teeth, and said, "Concerned citizens talk, Mr. Morrison." That's when it hit me. Someone had been watching my every move, and not just lately. The whole operation was done in under 2 hours, every piece tagged and bagged, like I was public enemy number one. All they couldn't touch was a battered metal box locked in my bedroom safe full of family medals and war mementos, nothing remotely dangerous, but you should have seen Karen's eyes when I refused to hand it over. She made a note, lips pursed, plotting her next move. Brad Stevens, HOA muscle, and Karen's right-hand guy came around the corner, my last trail camera dangling from his sausage fingers. "Found another one," he grunted and casually rattled off GPS coordinates, which only confirmed they'd mapped out my whole property for weeks. By the time the convoy disappeared, all that was left was the bitter taste of injustice and the low buzz of real danger inching ever closer to the heart of Pine Ridge. And the thing is, Karen thought she'd made everyone safer. By noon, Facebook was lit up with people calling me a would-be domestic terrorist neighbors. I'd helped for years, suddenly acting like I was John Rambo with a grudge. Even Pete Miller at the hardware store couldn't meet my eye. Then Maria Santos showed up, her daughter Sophia peeking out from behind her. Maria whispered, terrified, that Karen had threatened to slap her with violations unless she agreed to testify she'd seen suspicious activity on my land. "She knew exactly when you visited your grandmother at the hospital, Jake. She showed me photos of your place from angles I've never seen. She knows everything." If that doesn't send a shiver down your spine, I don't know what will. Enter Tommy Chin's cybersecurity guy, amateur hacker. The kind of friend you want when the world goes off the rails. He'd been running automated security cameras because of some break-ins nearby and found footage of Karen's white SUV making 3 secret trips to my property, always when I was gone. Even worse, zoomed-in shots showed her planting something under my truck, a GPS tracker. "They've been mapping your routines for weeks," Tommy said, grim. But it wasn't just about me. Tommy dug into Karen's emails. Don't ask how, and what he found was so much bigger than petty neighborhood beef. There it was in black and white, Phase 1 complete. Morrison disarmed. Phase 2, create incident seize land. The email was 6 months old, sent to Councilman Richard Slater and Brad Stevens. They'd been targeting my ranch for a developer's luxury project, researching loopholes, twisting HOA rules, and strong-arming anyone who got in the way. Maria wasn't the only one threatened. At least a dozen families got the same treatment. The clincher Pete Miller turned up with his arm in a bloody sling. 3 boar busted through my fence last night, nearly took my arm off. I called Karen, told her about the attack. She said it was just nature taking its course. But Pete had overheard Karen in the ER bragging on the phone. Morrison's removal created the perfect opportunity for escalation. That's when I realized they'd manufactured the crisis, stripped my defenses, and were sitting back to let disaster run wild, literally. I called Sheriff Williams thinking maybe the law could help, but he just said his hands were tied. Unless you can prove federal law's been broken, Jake, I can't touch this. Not exactly comforting, but it lit a fire under me. That night, everything came to a head. The boar hit the neighborhood hard, property trashed, pets, killed families, barricaded inside. I did what I could with a wooden baseball bat, helping evacuate people, carrying little Sophia Santos to safety. Meanwhile, Karen sat in her SUV recording the chaos, not lifting a finger to help. Maria caught the whole rescue on video, then called Karen out right there in front of everyone. "He saved my daughter's life while you filmed." By dawn, Maria's footage had gone viral, shifting public opinion. But Karen counterpunched fast, posting an edited video that made it look like I was the threat, swinging a bat for fun, turning the community's fear against me. The spin was almost perfect. Until my grandmother, 91 years old, Army nurse, toughest soul, I know, handed me a tiny brass key and dropped the real bombshell. "Jake, that metal box isn't just family stuff. This ranch was a classified Cold War comms bunker. Federal protection overrides anything the HOA tries to pull. The bunker's still there, and by law, you're allowed to defend this land and the community." She'd kept the secret for decades. Now it was time to use it. While Tommy kept digging, he discovered proof that the boar crisis was no accident. Someone had deliberately cut fence lines at Miller's farm, funneling the animals straight into Pine Ridge 2 weeks before the HOA raid. They engineered the danger, then disarmed the only guy who could stop it. Then, just when I thought it couldn't get crazier, a convoy of blacked-out vehicles, no plates, no markings, rolled toward my ranch. Not police, not HOA. Merc sent by Slater Development, ready to bulldoze before any court order. I sprinted to the bunker, fired up the emergency broadcast system, and live-streamed everything. Karen's emails. The boar sabotaged the GPS trackers, the federal designation broadcasted to Facebook, YouTube, and the local radio. Within minutes, neighbors started flooding in, armed with tools and cameras, standing shoulder to shoulder to block the demolition. Sheriff Williams rolled up this time, flanked by FBI agents, and announced that Slater Development and the HOA leadership were under federal investigation for racketeering, fraud, and conspiracy. Karen showed up expecting an easy win and watched as the whole town turned against her. The FBI cuffed her on the spot, but not before she made one last phone call, Plan B. Suddenly, a slick pre-recorded video hit every screen with doctored footage of me threatening her, calling for my arrest. But Tommy was ready. He dumped the raw footage of Karen and Brad rehearsing the whole thing, admitting on tape they'd fake evidence, bribe officials, even treat boar attacks as acceptable casualties. The backlash was instant and overwhelming. The FBI swept in, rounding up Karen, Brad, Slater, and the whole rotten bunch. In court, the judge actually called me the finest tradition of American citizenship. Not going to lie, I choked up hearing that. We reformed the community council with Maria Santos chairing it. Pete Miller ran the new safety committee. My ranch turned into a wildlife learning center. And yes, my grandmother survived her cancer, sitting on the porch with me every sunset. Maria and I got closer than I ever expected. Even Mrs. Henderson came by with cookies and apologies. 6 months later, the boar had retreated, the fences were mended, and our town had learned painfully what community is supposed to mean. You ever feel powerless against people who think their rules matter more than your life? Here's your proof that you don't have to take it. Now it's your turn. Tell me down in the comments who was really in the wrong. Is it ever justified to break the rules to protect your home, or does order matter more than justice? Like, share, and subscribe if you believe standing up for your neighbors still counts for something. The next episode. Well, let's just say Pine Ridge isn't done surprising us yet.